Would have been held till you got back or be here.
I could not agree more. If the council was this divided on something, it should have been held until we got back.
That's exactly what we did, and that's why we're here tonight without all of these speeches.
And I further want to...
Somebody could have called the school district and explained that to you.
I had the floor.
You can
Just
keep it.
Thank you so very much. And I further want to commend you on the outstanding business plan that would generate somewhere between $2,800 and $3,600 a year. That is, if that's the best work that we can do, then we need to go back to the drawing board. So, as I stated before, I was so significantly chastised by Councilman Cockrell with all your rhetoric regarding council committee meetings that the rest of us don't even know about, and comments to the press that have nothing to do with this issue. I would be more than happy if it's the council, if a majority of the council's pleasure is to contact the school board in Columbia and try to reconstitute this. Or I guess we can just lose money and do this at $2,800 to $3,600 per year, and I believe that's after we spend $18,000. Do I understand those? Now, you're the numbers man, Councilman. I'm just a poor mayor. But do I understand those financial numbers okay?
Well, tonight I concur with that statement. You're a poor
well,
mayor.
Well, thank you very much. I always feel so honored when you concur with me on something. Councilman Williams.
Such a heated discussion over something that was
a spur of the moment?
Well, I resent that. There was nothing spur of the moment about this. And I also take exception to the idea of this being a poor management decision and doing whatever we can do to politicize this to make it look like a bunch of people met behind closed doors, as it seems to be alleged. Oh. That's absolute nonsense. I don't believe it happened.
I didn't say that,
but it alluded to that content.
Well, you know, perhaps the discussion at the break should occur during the meetings. So you can resent whatever you want, but the fact of the matter is this was pulled off the consent agenda, and here we are. So I guess the question is, for those of you that are most resentful, is what do we do now? Do we spend the $18,000 of site preparation so that we can, let me look at these figures again, being just a mayor and not a financial wizard, so that we can gain $2,800 to $3,600 a year? Is that what you want to do? I mean, this wasn't my idea.
I want to move them to the airport. That's exactly what I want to do to create some space up there. I made no...
Well, then I suggest that you make that motion and we'll see if it flies. If that's what you want, that you have the floor and you're welcome to make a motion.
Well, we're finished with discussion.
You can make a motion anytime, Councilman, and we can cut the discussion short.
Okay, I'll move that we take the units that were previously used to the old city hall, I don't know how to reference them, but whatever these trailers are, and move them to the airport to make them available for rental space for future business.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Nay. Roll call. Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Councilmember Spallo?
No.
Councilmember Rhodes?
Aye. Aye.
Councilmember Hallam?
Aye.
Councilmember Hoffman?
Aye.
Councilmember Cockrell?
Aye.
Councilmember Freeman?
No.
Motion passed 5-2. Well, I have to say, it is one of the more outstanding moves we've ever made. And for people that have never been supportive of the mayor, or the airport, excuse me, to be supportive of spending this kind of money, losing out on a legitimate bid to gain this kind of money, is shocking to say the least. Councilman Cockrell, I never knew that you'd become such a wonderful supporter of the airport.
Mayor, you calling me out in a public meeting on this?
Oh, no, I'm not. Why would we do that?
I think you are, Mayor, and you know what? If this had been handled correctly, I would have had time to dispute the math the staff came up with. We'd have dealt with it in FP&C where we should have, but we didn't. So now we have to do it this way.
I'm
I
sorry.
recommend we change our method of operation, and we won't have these little sessions.
Well, I'm sorry, I don't understand. I thought it was the council's desire that this be on tonight's agenda, so why didn't you have time to adequately prepare?
Mayor, my point is that the statement as to whether or not this generates this amount of revenue is flawed. A good fixed-based operator coming in, generating additional fuel sales is not calculated in this. It's only a rental calculation. The amount of wages paid and the multiplier effect of those wages is not calculated in this. This is pure folly that somebody threw together because this city apparently doesn't know how to do a business plan. And that's what's wrong with this airport. And we better get to it, or we might as well close it, because the way we're doing it isn't getting the job done and isn't making citizens happy at the same time.
Well, I certainly appreciate that clarification. Perhaps the next time that you don't want staff to tell you what you don't want to hear, you shouldn't ask them to do the analysis.
All I asked them to do was give us that information before FP&C moved to sell these modular units, and that failed to happen.
I'm only responding to what you said, Councilman. And in the future, if you think there's an agenda item that hasn't been adequately vetted, to use one of your terms, then I suggest you pick up the phone, you give the mayor a call.
Mayor was out of town, Mayor.
I was out of town for one day, Councilman, and you very well know that.
And I realized it was on the agenda as a consent item.
Well, you knew it was on the agenda tonight, and if you felt like you didn't have adequate staff input, all you have to do, again, is rather than have a report that's full of folly, is pick up the phone, call the mayor, call the city administrator, and we could have put this off again until you had adequate time.
Somehow there's 5 votes that have gone down this path, Mayor, so let's move on.
Councilman Freeman.
Madam Mayor, I have, I want to respond to something, and two, I need some information from legal counsel.
Okay.
Number one, the quotes about the Public Works Committee were the Public Works Committee was not going to entertain it unless staff came forward with a plan to modify the plan that was in place. And I most certainly never had staff approach me and request to modify the plan for the airport. Two, I believe we have a conundrum in that the council has now moved to move these things to the airport without the necessary public hearing for a special use permit, modification of our UDO, etc. And I'll be quite interested to find out how we can legally do that without going through our own process.
There are procedures that will need to be followed, and I would take this vote as direction to begin that process and not to assume that we're going to be jumping to the end of it.
So are there going to be ordinances involved with this? If there's a special use permit, if there are other things?
With regard to special use permits, I certainly need to check the UDO. I do know that with regard to changes of plans at any facility, there's a necessity of, for example, a hearing in front of the Planning Commission for one, as well as other steps as well.
Exactly. There will be a, excuse me, a preliminary development plan that has to be created. There will also be an SUP application that would have to be completed. There would be a public hearing process, and it would come back before this board as far as the plan for approval and the SUP.
And how long will that take, and approximately how much money will that cost that we can add to the bottom line?
It could take, for the preliminary development plan to get that created, could take probably a month, 30 days. By the time we get through the process in the Planning Commission, it could take, as far as an SUP between both bodies, it could take up to 6 months.
Okay. And of course, we don't have any estimate on staff time.
No.
And the ordinance would not come to me until after that process has been completed.
Yes, there'd be some land surveying that we'd have to do to generate a plan, and we'd also have to send it to the FAA to get approval.
Well, I don't think we should bother ourselves with the details, and I can tell you right now that 5 votes won't be adequate, Councilman. So let's move on. Would you like a break before we start City Walk?
Yes, Mayor.
Let's take